Hey there, Ronan here from RingoMusicBingo, part of this year's Takes a Village lineup. If you don't know me, RingoMusicBingo is the world's greatest comedy music intro game, not quiz. Just a fun game, and I give a cash prize and a chance to win €5,000. So just come along. I'm on Saturday at 2 o'clock in Sally O'Hara's, Sunday 3 o'clock, Sally O'Hara's. I've put together a little pun run where I mention every act that's on the festival lineup. So expect about 72 to 76 jokes. This is a video nobody asked for, nobody needs, but I thought it was worth doing for the crack. So some of you who are ticket holders already are probably wondering if the timetable is available anywhere online. And yes, indeed, you do. It is. You just need to go to the It Takes a Village website, our Facebook page. It's downloadable there. It's handy. There's a PDF where you can download the whole weekend schedule with the times and stuff, or day by day. So there's the Friday times, the Saturday times, the Sunday times. It's all pretty much nailed down now, to be fair, right down to 10, 15-minute specific time slots. It's all on an even keeling at this stage, so there'll be no chopping and changing. And I do recommend you give it a good sconce. You don't have to study it really in depth because there's just so much entertainment on. You could be having a good time like 24/7 at this weekend. Well, I suppose since it's a weekend, 24/3. Uh, the chalets would be something that's different. They're not playing, but the chalets are something different, unlike most Irish festivals so far. You can stay in the accommodation in the chalets or your own camper vans. And look, we're all grown ups, and we're all people of the world, and shenanigans might happen in the chalets, and that's fine. Consent. But as long as maybe ladies, make sure you pull the curtains and pull the blinds, boys. Uh, but not everyone might be as base as some of the DJs that are playing. You might just want to be hanging out in the house, watching maybe a bit of TV, chilling out. And there's some pretty cool, fun, quirky shows that you can find in the programming. Some of you might have heard of that 1970s West German very quirky game show that they've got a DVD of season one on. They'll be showing it, where there was literally only one prize, and it was a trip for four to get a cruise on the main river in Egypt. And that was the only prize. And if you didn't win it, you just went home empty handed. It was a much loved show, Das Nile or Nine. And you can watch that on the TV station. Now, speaking of the TVs, not many people have picked up on this, but the Department for the Gaeltacht and have pitched in with a bit of EU funding, and the organisers of It Takes a Village are after getting some discretionary funding for the indigenous language. So 1/10, not a tenth, but 10% of the overall village has accommodation that are Oscailga. So like the signs are Oscailga, the languages that is the people are encouraged to speak Oscailga, and the television is only showing Irish language programs, and you get special telefiches for that. They're known as na Stevie Nijis. Speaking of watching television, of course, you might want to just watch a bit of the sport, maybe the Premiership over the weekend. They'll be showing that in the main bars, I assume. For the purpose of this joke, they are. Man City are playing Spurs. They might be able to clinch the Premier League title with a win there. And if they blow it, you could be like, "Oh, Pep, you've spent €450 million already trying to win the league, and you still can't get it over the line. However, would you manage under the Hammers budget?" Also, just keep an eye out for the dialogue between Guardiola and Pochettino, because they might have some funny, intense interactions, and they might get picked up on a Laboom mic. The whole site has a very strong maintenance backup team, so feel free to contact them if you need any modifications done to your chalet. Like maybe you're quite tall like me and you'll need some altered showers. Be careful that you may remember to bring your key with you, because I know you would be used to having a different key with you. Don't leave the key in the door. You also don't want to lock yourselves out, because you end up having to get a locksmith. But outside of the accommodation, of course, there's loads of entertainment to do. For instance, I'm on Saturday at 2 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. in Sally O'Hara's with Ringo Music Bingo. Now, I do a lot of jokes, different types of jokes, in my 45-minute slot. So even if you don't like one of my gags, I'm sure you like Joke Ella. I'm going to be putting everything into my performance. I am going to be doing a show and a half. If you haven't seen me, I tend to free associate my jokes just as things go. So sometimes silly, sometimes wordplay, sometimes hard hitting political humour. But I'll probably stay away from the Brexity stuff. It's too close to home. It's going to affect so many generations. Like obviously the kids of tomorrow, but even the young mothers and young fathers of now, and how they have to deal with it, and sort of passports and stuff. Speaking of passports, of course, there's the closest border to us would be Northern Ireland, and as I recorded, it's the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, and so much positive stuff has happened since. Mainly the demilitarization of the paramilitary groups, paramilitary. Obviously, on the Republican side, the continuity IRA are gone, the provisional IRA are gone, the real IRA are gone, or the RA, as people call them. But there's all these smaller splinter groups that I'd still be aware of, like the Shukra and the Disco El Cultura. And of course, there's international politics then, obviously, the orange-haired one. You hear so much about it. I've got bored of it, Trump and the US, Russia and the US, international trade agreements and the US. But the only US I'm looking forward to hearing about at the weekend is famous Seamus. He's going to be DJing the pool party, as will several other DJs. But the pool will be open to everyone, just kind of open access. You won't be able to book a lane or anything. And it's just fun for people who just want to, get off dry land. Lest you forget, it's a weekend for people just to relax and just tune out from the day-to-day rat race. On a health and safety level, though, of course, just make sure you're sober and safe getting into the water, be it the pool or even if you go down to the beach. Because if you've consumed a bit, and you might see something floating in the water, you might go like, "Oh, it's someone's drowning or an animal." But don't rush into things that might just be a decoy in the water for one of the local clubs, who might be using it as a target or something. It could be a swimming club, or a yachting club, or even a rowing club. And be careful, particularly if you try to go out into the fresh water, because it's easy to paddle, but don't go as far as where the fish go deep. Or Oscailga, Ishk Dia Eep. One of the other activities you can do is the crazy golf. Just a quick tip: they actually have two grades of clubs there, so make sure you get the A level ones. You don't get the bad B ones. It's quite a fun course with the crazy golf. Hole 3 though has one of those awkward ones where you have to get the ball through a tower with a sort of a windmill going around it. You don't want to hit that. It takes a bit of practice. So maybe on your first go on the course, it'll take ages to get through it, but in your next go, you'll find it easy to get through the mill again. Spike Milligan's 100th birthday is actually the next day. So for the crack on Sunday, I'm going to be doing a few readings from the Bible according to Spike Milligan, where he wrote the Bible. And I may or may not have some guests. They're not replying to my tweets. So check my tweet timeline and see who I've tweeted, and that's a clue. Spike, of course, was a big fan of wordplay. Like he did so much, but one of his brilliant devices was writing confusing conversations between 2 or 3 or 4 people, and it would descend into wordplay. And I can imagine the acts that are playing in Cotter's Bar on Friday at 8:30. If he met the act who's playing the same venue on Saturday at 1 p.m. And then they were overheard by the DJ who was playing the Cove at 12:15 on Saturday night. The introductions might go a little bit like this. Hi, my name is John. Oh, I'm actually John Bleck. But that's mad. We both go by the name John. Yes, I'm John 24/7. And I'm John Daly. Actually, the first time I was in Trabolgan Holiday Village was a long time ago. It was 1982, which was, a lot of people might remember, was the year of the Falklands battle between the UK and Argentina. There was a very large UK army and a little Argentina won. But we won't want any of that sort of argy-bargy at the five-a-side tournament. That's going to be played on all pitches. And to try and avoid injuries, we're not allowing people with studs on their boots to play because they just cause a lot of niggly nicks and cuts. So the management have banned them. The tournament is organised this year by Feel Good Lost. The organisers asked me if they think he'd do a good job, and I said, sure, why can't he? He's going to be fair as well. He knows most of the players, so he's going to make sure the teams are quite balanced. There's no point having a strong team and a weak one. Now, watch out though if anyone's going to be playing against the five-a-side team from the squad of male Irish guitar players with beards. There's a lot of them. If you're playing them, make sure you mark O'Reilly. But what's paramount is that everyone plays fairly and doesn't get injured. I just don't like people when they play so competitively that they lose the fun and just foul. That always gets me agitated. That attitude, it doesn't belong to just me. And the whole weekend, it's supposed to be laid back. For instance, the referees at the tournament, they won't have any access to like the VAR or a slow-mo cloud TV replay. And after the outside exertions, why don't you come in and sit down and enjoy a drink, perhaps, in Sally O'Hara's, Saturday 2 p.m., Sunday 3 p.m. All over the venue, there's going to be good stuff, so you could argue that every space is a good room. But Sally O'Hara's really is the best room, or should we say, the best good room, because in the good room, I should be reading the good book, where I'll be doing readings from Spike Milligan, versions of the Bible. And I'm sure you've already mentioned him, so you're right, I thought I'd mention Spike Milligan again. Food, of course, is another thing to savour at It Takes a Village. Loads of options. I'm afraid you're not able to book a brasserie. There are several places to eat if you aren't going to be making your own food. I encourage people to try new things. Obviously, there'll be some stuff that people haven't tried before. But if you don't like it, fine. It's a world of choice. But if I overhear you saying something like, "Oh, this is gay food," you're no friend of mine. Perhaps some of you will want like chips and carbs and comfort food, and other people will want to try maybe stuff that's slightly more healthy, like quinoa and spinach and kale and your all stars. If you do choose to cook in your chalets, then of course your meals can be tailor-made to your taste. Do encourage people to have like lunch with their friends and dinner with their buddies and supper with their pals. But I do encourage you to have breakfast with the Ink Spots, which is Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. in Sally O'Hara's, the best good room of It Takes a Village, where I'll be playing just the records of a band from the 1920s, 30s, 40s called the Ink Spots, pre-doo-wop jazz harmony singing. Now, a lot of people think every song of theirs sounds the same and that it gets a bit repetitive, and that it gets a bit repetitive. But I don't think so, and neither does the It Takes a Village organisers, which is why they've booked me twice. In fact, between all the things I've performed so far, I'm booked to be doing 5 different gigs. So if you enjoy what I do and just would like to chat to me, or if you're just a fan of my elan, come over to say hello over the course of the weekend. Well, maybe instead of meals, you'll just want to hang out in the chalet and have a cup of Seamus Fogger tea, and that's fine. Tea, that's something. I'm more a coffee man, and real tea. I'm still on the fence about herbal tea. I like to try them, for context. But a particularly bad one in a cafe recently, and I tried it. I was like, "Oh, this is awful." I called over the manager. I was like, "Look, I'm trying this. Would you have a taste of it?" And he tasted it and he went, "Oh God, you're right. This is a shit row bosh." Because that's the thing with a cup of normal tea. If you don't like the taste of it, you can always just add a bit more milk or a bit more sugar and just give it a good Saint Sister. But yeah, speaking of tea, make a point of doing something really classy, like getting a cup of the best tea in Ireland and putting on a fancy lace napkin. Uh, of course, that's some Barry's on some doilies. Or maybe you could have the classic holiday village treat of a tub or a bitch full cone of vanilla or strawberry or banana cream ice cream. If you don't like dairy or like smoothies or McFlurries, you could always have a Cormac ice lolly. But the main thing to do before you start imbibing for the festival is make sure you fill your belly, man, or woman, or whatever you're having. But I would suggest, because of the different beer options, that you try a pint of everything. Personally, I'm a big fan of stouts and porters. I've never been a fan of lagers, really. The in between, so the in between colors, like I've always found the red ale leery. And another thing about the chalet, like don't argue too much about the food and drinks and the supplies. You don't want to be like nitpicking stuff like uh, looking through the looking through the fridge. Jim, my cake. And then Jim would be like, yeah, look, to be honest, I did eat your cake. I just intended to have a nibble of it, put the fork in, but after the first bite, oh, it wasn't just the fact that the ginger was there, it was the strength, and I couldn't stop eating it. All the food providers are bringing top-notch ingredients. I know vegetarians won't like to hear this, but they made sure that the meat people bringing meat are just bringing high class meat. In fact, like obviously no battery chickens or anything, and the pork is coming from a specifically intelligent strain of pigs. That's why you can be sure you'll be eating Cunningham. Obviously, budgets mean you probably eat a little bit in the chalets to save a few shekels, but I would encourage everyone to try at least one meal, maybe a day, at the different food providers, because it'd be terrible to see them come down and not make enough money, and then the business not doing well, and some of the staff ending up having to be fired. Festivals like this, with, let's face it, such an attractive and well informed audience, need to make sure that the soundtrack in between the bands and in the bars while people partying are pretty good. So you have to get the right DJs with a very broad selection of music. So come at the moment, come at the man, or should I say, ex Comet the moment, Jim X Comet the man, who like the breadth of his record collection is amazing. You you you'll always be surprised by what he plays, except requests. He doesn't play requests, even though there's one particular uh, scene of music I doubt even he'll be playing, which was the 1980s New Zealand indie rock scene, made very famous really by the Flying Nun record label. So what I'm saying is I expect him to do nil Dunedin sound. I'm pretty sure now that the audience at this festival will show to the bands that are playing and justify the organisers' time and energy and gamble putting this together that Cork loves music. And not just the stuff we already know, but we're already always keen on seeing new acts. Now, I've been to a fair few of these chalet festivals across the water, and a little bit of advice from a veteran is don't feel under pressure to stay out the whole time just because you can. So you could say that going to sleep is your own choice. Don't feel any peer pressure. Go karting is great crack, but don't spend all your time just doing that. Try and taste as much food as you can and enjoy all the experiences you can. And Ghost King is Dead is playing on Sunday at 2 o'clock in Cotter's Bar, and he would be my tip of things to see that I don't know too well myself. Now, obviously, if the first time you've ever come across my material is this video, you might think I'm just taking the piss out of everyone that's playing and stuff, but I'm not. The whole thing about Ringo Music Bingo is that I have fun with music. I don't make fun of musicians. Come along on Saturday at 2 o'clock or Sunday at 3 o'clock in Sally O'Hara's if you want to see it in live. You might think I'm being supercilious, but I'm not. I'm just having fun. And even if you don't like some of the jokes of the 76 gag video, you must admit that some are good. At the time of making this, there are few tickets left, and I believe a handful of Sunday ones. And I urge you to buy your ticket right now. You don't want to log on later and go onto the ticket site, uticket.ie, and end up shouting out, "Oh no, it's a goddamn sellout!" Oh. Tickets actually went on sale for this last year, giving people opportunity to budget for it. And they had a very straightforward deposit system where you just paid half in advance. The organisers had asked me for my input, and to be fair, business is not my forte. I had suggested that you paid 10% increments every fortnight, and they looked at me and they said, "Look, Ronan, you're an entertainment juggernaut, but we can't go with your idea of Vager bonds." Now, I know I did say I was going to make a pun about all 76 acts on the bill, and you'll also have noticed I still have done nothing with Martin Hayes and Steve Cooney. And there's a very simple reason for that is I'm afraid that Martin Hayes will give out to me. If I do see either of them and I'm wearing a hat, I will try and veil them. If after the weekend you're missing some stuff, it should be easy enough to claim. You should just go in and see if it was handed in to Lost and Found office. And if you do have a good time, and I'm sure you will, why don't we all meet up there again in 2 or 3 months? So what I'm saying is, how about in July, go again? But first, let's go to the debut of the It Takes a Village festival. Let's get there safe and soundly and ready to party at a mild energy level when you get to my age. And all I can say is bon voyage to everybody. If you enjoy what I do, look up Ringo Music Bingo on any of the social medias or look it up on any of the search engines. If you add me on all of them, I don't keep your data. And, strong political message, repeal the eighth.